again, like I said earlier, I did ask Dr. Nies and Dr. Grady, and they both agreed. And we will post this on our website. Well, good afternoon and welcome to our Staff Assembly's second virtual leadership chat. And I'm excited to welcome and thank Vice Chancellor Dr. Charles Nies and AVC and Dean of Students Dr. Jonathan Grady, and Staff Assembly board members, and most importantly, the staff who are taking time out of their busy schedules to join us today. Before we go any further, I also want to quickly acknowledge the announcement of our new Chancellor, Dr. Juan Munoz, and I'm so excited to welcome him and his family not only to the UC Merced community, but also the larger Merced community. And also a huge amount of appreciation and gratitude to Interim Chancellor Nathan Brostrom for his support for staff. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during these uncertain times. And just like I said last time, please feel to reach out if you're looking for resources that are available to staff, and Staff Assembly board members and I will do our best to get the person or the department that can assist further. Like I said, we only have an hour and we'll get started right away, but I want to thank all the Staff Assembly board members, Yesenia, Alvin, Austin, Brenda, Danielle, Sonal, Wendy, and Aaron in helping with this event today, and also to Luana Putney and Danya Matos, who've been incredibly supportive of this effort. And, you know, I did mention last time that Danya kind of asked me why, you know, to send a proposal, and kind of it made me think like why I want to do this. And again, I'm going to repeat, it is really to interact with senior leadership, hear from them directly, and so that we can build community and ensure leadership have a regular upward communications channel for employees, so that we can share our job-related concerns and issue. And we hope to continue this with other members of senior leadership. Quick housekeeping rules. We're going to open up the anonymous submission link for this. So if you want to ask additional questions based on the information being shared and still want to remain anonymous, please feel free to use the link. We will provide all the questions to both Dr. Nies and Dr. Grady and hope to have them answer or provide some sort of feedback after this meeting today. Like I said in the beginning, the meeting is being recorded to allow staff who are not able to attend to access. Please use the hand raise feature to ask any questions or type into chat so that we can capture it. Our co-hosts will be monitoring the chat and keeping track of the raised hands. We may not have time to get to answer all the questions, but again, we will make sure that we address it in the future, at a future time. But quickly, Charles, I don't know if you know this, but you were kind of like the catalyst for this to happen. When I put in the proposal, I did mention that when you did your virtual leadership meeting and I saw like 102 staff, like 197, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a real interest here. So it was fabulous to hear directly from you. So this is all because of you. So I appreciate it. So now,
tell my colleagues that.
and your colleagues did a fabulous job. So,
okay, all right.
So we appreciate it very much.
Right.
So I'm going to open it up to you for your opening remarks. So just like last time, you're going to do opening remarks, and Dr. Grady will do his opening remarks, and we'll then answer questions, 4 questions that I broke it up into categories based on the anonymous questions we received. So take it away, Charles.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining. This is actually really timely for me. I needed to see all of your faces. It's been quite an emotional week for me. I'll be completely honest with you, as I reached out to a lot of our seniors who were graduating and congratulated them on their journey, and reminded myself that typically I would have been sitting on stage and I would have been able to hug them as they walked across the stage, and all of those different experiences that I've been able to do in the past, I wasn't able to do. And so that was quite a ride for me. I've also formed a really strong relationship with Nathan, and I've really valued his integrity and his leadership and the way that he has been a part of our campus community in so many different ways. And so, so it was a bit emotional knowing that he was leaving and wasn't going to be our chancellor anymore, and then excited that we've got a new chancellor and all that he and his family is going to bring. And so, so really just an emotional week for me already. And one of the things that I thrive off of in these moments is connection with all of you. and the opportunity to see your faces and to hear your stories and to learn about your experiences, all of that is really important and valuable for me. And so the opportunity to spend time with you all today is huge. And so I want to thank you because it is meeting an emotional need that I have at this moment, given everything that is going on around us. So just wanted to start by saying thank you for that. But also want to thank you for the pivot that we've all been able to do. And a couple of weeks ago, I sent out a message to all the staff in student affairs about the importance of pivoting, right? And we often hear that phrase, but we don't completely recognize where it comes from. And it comes from basketball and that whole idea that you plant one foot squarely down and then you pivot with your other foot to find the new direction you're going to go. But you stay planted squarely and firmly in that one spot before you then make that next move. And as I think about the work we do, we've planted our foot squarely down on student success and the role that we all do to support our students in their journey through the educational experience. But we've been nimble, particularly these past few months, as we've got that other foot that is searching for that new direction that we are going to pivot to as we try to figure out how to do this work and do it differently in the face of the COVID-19 crisis that we all are in. And so I just wanted to also take a moment to thank you for your ability to be nimble and pivot while making sure that we are keeping that one foot planted squarely in student success and the work that we all do to support that mission of the institution and to really help our students navigate the institution and to find that direction for themselves. We all play a great role, no matter what it is that we do at the institution. We all are contributing to that overall mission, as well as obviously the mission of research and the faculty research that is going on. Particularly right now, we have faculty that are doing amazing research around modeling for COVID-19 and understanding that. They're helping to advise county departments of public health. We are trying to stand up some labs to actually do testing right on campus itself, right? And so they're doing all this great work, and you all support that. The amazing, amazing work that happens on our campus, both with our students and with our faculty. So thank you for that pivot, and thank you for your ongoing commitment and dedication to the mission of the UC Merced. So excited to be with you all today, and those are my opening comments before I turn it over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Charles. Jonathan?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us here today to speak with you all, to answer questions, and just to acknowledge the amazing work that each and every one of you is doing. I must recognize and just honor your work and who you are, and knowing that working, living, learning, and growing through a pandemic has not been easy. It has been difficult for all of us, including our students. So I start with a quote by Michael Seabury that states that, and I quote, "We must check on each other. We must support each other. We must love each other. We must share our individual and collective fears and vulnerabilities so that day by day and truth by truth, we will become stronger together," end quote. And I just really just encourage all of us to look at this as an opportunity for a transformational reset. What does or what can our new normal look like at UC Merced? And that historically, pandemics have forced us to break away from the past and to imagine a new world. And this is our opportunity. Right now, a return to what we know as normal would mean returning to a history and world of racism, of oppression, of xenophobia and transphobia and classism. Instead, how can we collectively kind of really look at what this new normal can look like? This is our opportunity, and this is something that I'm very excited for. So just know that within student affairs, a lot of the work that we're looking at is really thinking about helping all of us continuously rise, right? And I use RISE as an acronym for R, kind of restoring. What does it mean to restore trust? We recognize that morale is a concern in our community. What does it mean to restore the hope that we have that tomorrow can be brighter and can be better? What does it mean to involve our students, our staff, our faculty in all that we do to ensure that our voices are heard and our feedback is taken seriously so that our community can continuously thrive. S, what does it mean to support? What does support look like for staff, for faculty, for our students? We're really looking at that. I'm working with Danya Matos and the People's First Work Group to really get a sense from staff and faculty, how has this pandemic really impacted the work, our lives, and how can we really create more resources to support all of us? And lastly, E, how do we evolve, right? How do we grow as a community? How do we learn so that this transformational reset that I speak of can truly happen in a way that that brings equity and justice for all? So I will end there. But again, I'm so excited for today and to see and hear from you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really inspirational. I appreciate the rise. Yeah, I wrote it down. I'm going to use it. It's brilliant. Thank you. Before I start the questions, I just again want to remind everyone, you can send us the questions in an anonymous link. You can send me a private message. You can send our board messages. You have different avenues of doing this. And also quickly, our staff assembly board is ending June 30th. So there are openings for new board members. So this is your chance. You've heard like the importance of the rise. So I just, again, I know student affairs folks are on here this call in other departments. Please try to be part of the staff assembly board. It's been very meaningful for me. So. And I did submit the questions to both Dr. Nies and Dr. Grady. And I will read my first question. So 4 questions. The first one is going to be about campus reopening plan for students and staff. The second one is student services. Third one is remote work for student affairs. And fourth one is Title IX. So my first questions to Dr. Nies is, what should we expect the fall to look like for students and staff? Can you share what plans are being explored for fall 2020 as far as being partially or fully remote? Will there be socially distant learning?
Yeah, that's a question that's on everyone's mind, right? And I will give you information regarding where we are at in our planning phases, as we don't have a definitive answer yet of what that will look like. And as we know, this situation changes almost day to day as new information comes out, and then we respond to that, and so that's part of the dynamic nature of our making decisions. The president of the university opened the regents meeting this morning, really talking about what all of the campuses are going through as part of the process to make decisions on what the fall will look like, and so. To some extent, UC Merced is right in sync with that larger conversation that's happening across all of the campuses. And it starts out with the fact that we will be doing instruction in the fall. So the instructional piece will be happening, right? And so that is important. And then UC Merced is in the process now of just really looking at and talking about what that instructional experience will be and will look like, because that's the big question, as well as what the rest of the campus operations will feel like for staff and for faculty. And so we put in place that every 3 weeks we look at and we evaluate where we are with the kind of telecommuting agreements that you all have submitted are in place. And so those were all extended until May 31st. We will more than likely be extending them at least until the end of June at a minimum, as we continue to look forward to what is next. Our first big phase that we're looking at, and to some extent it's almost like our pilot, is how to start to open up the campus again for research and the research activity of our faculty. And that, because that is a smaller group and allows us the opportunity to really work out some of the kinks about all of the processes that need to be in place as we move forward. We really are leaning on the 6 criteria that the governor laid out for the entire state of California around reopening. And the very first thing that he talked about is testing and the ability to do rapid testing, quick testing, and getting quick feedback. And so we are working closely with UC San Francisco and UC Davis, and then our health center on campus. And Dr. Michelle Brinkhoff has been fantastic in leading a lot of these conversations as far as our opportunity to be able to do testing for faculty, staff, and students on the campus. As some of you know, a brand new health center is opening up in June or July, or whenever the furniture arrives. And so we'll be transitioning our staff out of the current health center space into that brand new space. That will give us that old space to set up for a COVID-19 testing site and be able to bring faculty, staff, and students into that space, get testing, and then work closely. Either at that point in time, we may get certification to be able to do testing right here on campus, or to take those samples and send them out to UC Davis or UC San Francisco for less than a 24-hour turnaround time. It then allows us the opportunity to work with that individual who's been tested. We will have spaces available on campus to do self-isolation if we need to in our residence halls. So if someone needs to self-isolate while they're waiting for the testing results. And then the other big part, and the governor laid this out, is what's called contact tracing. The opportunity for us then to interview the person who has tested positive on all of the contacts they've had, so that we can then reach out to those individuals so they can also be tested and also take any precautionary steps that they need to do. We're working really closely with UC San Diego around this process, as well as UC San Francisco, which has set the protocol pretty much that is being used across the country around contact tracing. Has really been set by UC San Francisco. UC San Diego has set up a class, a certification course that we will look at potentially hiring individuals in the community and our own students to be able to be certified as contact tracers, and then working closely with the Department of Public Health here in Merced to be able to do that work. So all of those are part of the things that we need to have in place. We also then need to have in place ability to do monitoring and have people kind of report out their own symptomatic experiences, so that we can make sure that we're monitoring that through a combination of both questions as well as temperature screening, all these different screening mechanisms that will become important for us to make sure that the space maintains as healthy as it can. So I say all that to say our priority continues to be in all of our decision making, the safety and health and well-being of our faculty, staff, and students. Priority number one. Priority number two then is student success. And so how do we do all of that and maintain all of that while supporting the success and educational journey of our students, and then the research of our faculty? And so as we look at those priorities, that is what is driving some of the decisions that we're making moving forward. So by opening up the campus sometime this summer for research, we'll begin to see whether or not our systems are in place and are working okay on a smaller scale before we look to what that will be like in the fall. I can tell you that we will probably have some form of hybrid course structure in place for learning. As beautiful and as wonderful as Locker Ready Auditorium is, Priya, we might not be able to put 300 people into an auditorium in the fall. That is not allowing for that physical distancing that will be important for us. And so I know that Aaron Webb is on the call, and I know that the registrar's office is looking at all of our available classroom spaces. And if we do online lectures, then how do we break into small discussion groups and use larger spaces for small discussion groups, right? And so can we put 20 students in a 60-person classroom so we have the physical distancing that is important? We also know from some of the data we've collected and seen that right now there has been a 0.03 cases that have actually happened outside of where the transmission is occurring in an outside venue. How do we take advantage of the beautiful weather in the Central Valley and use some outside gathering spaces as well as a way for students to come together for some of those co-curricular activities that they're going to want to do and engage in as well. And then we've got about 15 different plans, I think, that Wei Ling and Sean Lynch and Martin Reed and the folks in housing and residential education have drawn up about occupancy in our residence halls. As we know that a majority of our students don't live in the surrounding area, and so as they relocate to Merced wanting to live in our residence halls, what does that density look like? And so those are all the plans. And as the president announced this morning at the Regents meeting, the goal is to be able to make some formal decisions by mid-June so that we can announce to everybody what fall instruction will look like for UC Merced and UC Berkeley in particular, as we start up our instruction already in August on the semester system. So I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did.
Okay, cool.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I did get some questions privately on my chat, and one of the questions was, will staff be able to volunteer to do contact tracing if this is available?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't, a good question. I mean, I don't know if we will have volunteers do it. Probably more that we will be looking at some grant funding as well as state and federal dollars to help hire people for the additional workload that would take to do contact tracing. You have to go through a certification process. If you're interested, Johns Hopkins has already stood theirs up and it's online and available. And so if you're interested in what this whole process is about and what it looks and feels like, I've been told it's not that onerous of a online process to go through, but it's an awareness and education. Ann Kowalczyk, who is our CIO and oversees IT, she went through the class over the weekend and has been giving us some information on that. And so, so I encourage you just to look into that. But we're not looking at it as a volunteer basis, but we're looking at it as an opportunity for employment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I am getting more questions, but what we'll do is maybe go through our 4 categories first, and then I'll come back to the questions because I want to.
Sounds good.
Please. Dr. Grady, this question is for you about student services. Has the campus provided emergency assistance to students? How have they been impacted by COVID-19?
Great, thank you, Priya. So absolutely, the university has and continues to provide emergency support to our students. We do know that our students struggled, right, with this transition to learning through a pandemic. It has been a challenge, increased responsibilities at home, family members not understanding that their scholars are not on summer vacation just yet, to problems or challenges with internet and technology. So yes, a lot of challenges. In addition to that, we know that our scholars have faced financial challenges as well as their families. So in terms of some of the support that we have been providing and will continue to provide to our scholars, one is emergency housing. We know that for some of our scholars, housing is a challenge. Some of our scholars have faced homelessness. Some don't have families to go back to. So we do provide emergency housing to our scholars, and we will continue to do that. So that is an option. If scholars want to participate or to apply for emergency housing, they can go to the Dean of Students website and email us directly. Emergency funds, we continue to provide emergency funding for students facing financial challenges. Again, this is for students in the midst of a crisis. So students can apply for emergency funds through the Dean of Students website as well. Additionally, we have a financial wellness coordinator. I believe Shara is online. So that is another resource, right, to help our scholars think about just budget management and how do you then take, say, a refund from financial aid and make it last for an entire semester or a summer session. What does that look like? So that has been a valuable, Shara has been a valuable resource and asset to our community, and we will continue to provide those services. So thank you, Shara. Basic needs support. Bob Need has done a tremendous job in terms of thinking about how do you take the services that they were already providing and still provide virtual opportunities for scholars to support our scholars in their basic needs from afar. So they've done everything from virtual gift cards to help our scholars with food support to a variety of different programs and initiatives coming from that area, the food pantry, etc. So that continues to be a valuable resource for our students and larger community. We also have the CARES Act funding that has been dispersed to some students who are Title IV eligible. That has gone out to undergraduate and graduate students. So that has become another resource to support our scholars financially. In addition to that, we have our student response team in providing holistic support to our scholars. Armando, kind of leading case management at our campus community, has been really helpful. And I see Scott is on. I just want to do a special shout out to Scott's team and residence education for all of their work. We had over 200 students that did remain on campus spring semester. So Scott and Scott's team provided 24-hour support to our scholars. So just wanting to acknowledge and, acknowledge the team and appreciate the team for all of their work and support. We will continue to have scholars living on campus throughout the summer, particularly those that are in need of emergency housing and support, recognizing again, some of our scholars do not have homes to go to. In addition to that, I think as we think about fall and next year, it's important to really think about how are we going to engage students, thinking about that RISE acronym earlier. And I do want to note that the Office of Student Involvement has set out a 3-part model for next year in terms of student involvement. And they're really rooting this model in sense of belonging. How are we ensuring that our students are feeling welcome, that they're feeling connected to our community and to each other? And also, how are they feeling as if they matter to our community? So this 3-part model that the Office of Student Involvement will be embarking on next year is 1, looking at virtual connections. How do we continue to provide virtual ways to engage our students, and recognizing that virtual has to move beyond just Zoom, right? Zoom fatigue is very real for all of us, especially our students. So they're really being innovative and thinking about new ways and innovative ways to engage our students virtually. Part 2 of their motto is community connections. It's with hope that we will be able to do some in-person events, initiatives, programs. Maybe not at the same scale as we're used to, but what does that then look like? So they're really trying to be creative in these community connections to engage scholars in person. How does that shift how clubs and orgs operate? What about fraternities and sororities, recreation? Tawana is leading a work group looking at involvement next year. So that, again, community connection piece is something that they're really trying to plan for. And lastly, that 3rd component is service, giving back to students. Instead of focusing on tons and tons and tons of programs for students, how is the university going to give back and really bolster a lot of the work that students are already doing within their clubs and orgs and fraternities and sororities? So the office will be giving grants to students. They can apply for grants through their clubs and organizations and fraternities and sororities to further the work that they're doing in a variety of areas, from professional development and training to building coalition. And we are hoping that, again, students will feel more connected and supported by our community. So those are just some ways through which our Office of Student Involvement will continue to support our scholars as we think about next year, and also examples as to how we continue to support our students financially. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was really helpful for staff members who are not in student affairs to get how student involvement really helps students. I appreciate that. And I also like how you gave some kudos to some of your staff members, so appreciate it. That's always nice to hear directly from their supervisors and managers. I have a question here that came in. It said, can you please share an update on student referendums? I don't know.
Absolutely. Yes, so we went through the referendum process. Unfortunately, we did not reach our 20%. So the referendum process states that 20% of undergraduate or graduate students, depending on if a referendum is linked to graduate students, needed to vote in the election. So we did not meet that. So none of the referendums that were on the ballot will be moving forward for next year. This process will continue, it's with hope, next year. So units and students will again have that opportunity, hopefully next year.
Thank you. And there was another question that says, how can staff support our students during this time who don't work directly with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really important for all of us to really think about how are we going to support our students virtually? So I know a lot of units are thinking about videos and using social media and TikTok, things that I'm not great at. I don't know about all of these new hip things that folks are using, but they're trying to think about, putting their services in a virtual way to even make sure that students are aware of these services. We know that we're going to have hopefully over 2,000 entering students coming in this fall that did not get to attend Bobcat Day, that did not get to attend an in-person orientation. So really thinking about how can you make your services accessible to students in a way that is meeting their virtual needs as well as in person. So I think that's one way, is to continue the love and support that this university is known for having for our scholars. I hear time and time again from our scholars that it's the staff, it's faculty who are making such a difference in their lives, from our custodial team to our dining staff. Just those small conversations that folks have with students are making all the difference. So finding ways to continue that will be very important, and making sure that if you are noticing that students are facing concerns, to refer students through our office, through the Dean of Students office, through our Students of Concern report. But I think it starts with, we're already supporting our students. We're already doing our work with empathy and love. So to continue that will be one of the best ways, in my opinion, to continue letting our students know that they're loved and they're supported.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Now, Dr. Nies, this question is for you about remote work for student affairs staff, and also I'm getting a lot of questions about remote work in my chat. Many have stated in the past that our student service work could not be done remote, but this pandemic has proven that wrong. Do you think this is something that department heads and supervisors should work with their team? Is there a good reason for some remote work as part of their normal schedule?
Yeah, and I want to, my answer is somewhat connected to Jonathan's previous comment about how do we support our students. And I think one of the things that UC Merced has as a hallmark is that spirit and sense of community. And some of the work that he talked about that, for example, the student involvement group is looking at is how do we help promote a sense of belonging? How do we help our students know that they matter? All of those are really important elements for us to bring to our work. And it's also important for us then to model that. So how we engage with one another, how we build community with one another matters, because we are modeling for our students that sense of building community and building connections and helping people know that they matter and are respected, right? And so I think that is a critical element in how we do our work and treat one another, because it is modeling that exact same behavior for our students. And so as we think about remote work, to get to the question, we really need to think about how do we do remote work in a way that still builds those connections and still validates and values our colleagues that we are working with. That becomes really important. And I think then how we do that in a way that helps our students know that we are there and we care for them and that they matter and are important. We have seen some initial data from the University of California undergraduate engagement survey that has asked questions about their students' experience with COVID. And I'll be honest with you, some of the scores on whether or not the students currently feel their institution cares about them are really, really low. And I know that we do, but as we transition so quickly into this virtual world, that face-to-face interaction that they were used to having with our campus went away really, really quickly and really abruptly in a way that left them feeling very different about their experience with UC Merced. And so while I'm not throwing out remote work and saying that we can't do that, I think we still have a lot of pieces that we need to figure out to make sure that it is done in a way that connects our students to us and to the institution so that they feel that sense of belonging and know that they matter and are valued. We need to figure out how to do it with one another so we still stay in community with one another. I had an opportunity, Scott and Maria let me jump in on the ResEd team meeting that they had earlier this week. And so I crashed their meeting and had a conversation with them. They're still on campus and they have so many students that reach out to them asking them questions. but because they feel somewhat isolated on the campus by themselves, they're not getting those pieces of information that they normally would get by walking around the campus and running into all of you all. And so when that interaction, that informal interaction physically on the campus doesn't happen, a lot of that information transference doesn't happen. And those of us that are supporting students in a regular work, we rely sometimes on those informal pieces of information so that we can help support a student. We know who to refer them to. We know who can answer their question. I'm so used to, I see Lisa right here from financial aid right here on my screen. And so I'm so used to when I meet with a student and they have a question about financial aid, I say, have you talked with Lisa yet? She's right downstairs. Let's go talk, right? And so we do that as a way to humanize that experience for our students because we know that that matters in their success. We try really hard to refer students to people and not just to offices. And so as we move into this world of remote interactions, I think we still have some of those things that we're going to need to figure out. How do we maintain connection and community with one another, and not just with our units through our Zoom meetings, but across the institution? So I applaud Staff Assembly and Priya for you bringing all of us together, 86 people on this call. This is how we build community, and these are going to be really important to do regularly so that we can interact with one another if we continue in this remote virtual reality, because that connection for us is going to be really important. So yes, I will acknowledge that we can do this distance remote thing, but I think we still have some pieces that we need to figure out to make sure that it is effective in accomplishing some of our goals around student success, particularly that goal of building community and helping them know that they matter and creating that sense of belonging. That becomes really important. So, you're used to walking into an office, and if the person you go in to meet isn't there, there's someone else there that might be able to answer your question. And so now if that person you're supposed to Zoom in with isn't available or can't meet with you or whatever, you're kind of hanging out there. The other piece that we've also heard from some of our students is that they're not necessarily in physical locations to have the types of conversations that they want to have with our staff. We know from across the system that the number of students keeping or holding counseling appointments with counseling psychologists have dropped dramatically, because when you're sharing a bedroom with your siblings, you don't want to go onto a Zoom call with your therapist. Or when you're having to talk with your academic advisor or your professor about a failed grade, you don't want to do that in a room with your siblings or where your parents might overhear you. So students may not be reaching out and accessing some of the services because of the private nature of those conversations, because they're not in the physical spaces that may allow them to do that. And so again, as we think about remote and distance work that we might be able to do, we have to think about, is it truly accessible for all of our students, and making sure that we're looking at that through an equity lens and recognizing that some of our students may not be in those physical spaces that would allow them to access the resources and have the types of conversations that they want to have. My wife taught a first-year seminar class, and she had students that, in order to get out of the hustle and bustle of the apartments that they were living in, they were sitting in their cars on their phones, Zooming into their class environments, because that was the only space they felt that they could go where they would get the type of environment that supported their learning. And so again, as we think about how we do remote work, we have to think about the student on the other end and whether or not the environment that they are in is really supporting the work that we are trying to accomplish with them. And so I don't want to say that yes, we all need to be back in person because that's the only way we can do this work. And I don't want to say we can be 100% online. We need to figure it out. And I think that there are still some ways that we are experimenting with this virtual world that will allow us to make some of those connections to our students in ways that matter and are really important.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. That was great perspective. I never really thought about, somebody doing an online class sitting in their car. That thing that it never occurred to me. So it's a great reminder of things that are out there that we don't know. So in regards to that.
Yeah, can I just really quickly, I just want to add, right? We thought we were doing this really cool thing. We bought a bunch of Wi-Fi hotspots, and we were sending them to students so that they could connect to the internet. And we bought them through one service. and that service didn't happen to work in the community where the students were living. And so we were sending them an AT&T hotspot, but they only got Verizon. And right, and we had one student who was driving to campus every day and sitting in a car in his parking lot so he could connect to Wi-Fi, driving all the way down from Sonora, because that was the closest Wi-Fi connection he could get. And so, so I think that there are still some of these technology pieces on the other end of this that will be important for us to figure out to support our students. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. Quickly, talking about your medical staff, do you want to just give a shout out to your medical staff who are all helping the students?
Absolutely, right. And so we have a couple of groups, a handful of groups, right, that are still on campus and still doing amazing work. And Jonathan mentioned earlier the Res Ed team, and so they're here and I can see them, and so thanks Deb. Obviously a lot of our staff in facilities and our custodial staff and maintenance team that are out there doing amazing work. Our staff in dining, continuing to prepare meals for our students that are living on campus. I was on campus today and they're still there. They're in the dining center making food and serving students. And so I thank them. And then our health center has maintained and has been open this entire time, doing both COVID testing and taking the samples in the health center and sending them off, as well as just treating other students that are coming in for other related illnesses. While we have only about 200 some students that were living on campus, we still have a very large percentage of our students who are living in the Merced community, because a lot of them were in leases and couldn't just pack up and leave their lease behind. And so they were still coming to campus to use the health center for their primary care. And so again, want to give a huge shout out to the team, Rosie and Michelle, and all of our medical staff that are in the health center that have been doing an amazing job continuing to support our students there. So thank them very much.
Thank you so much, Charles. And thank you to our health services staff for all you do. Appreciate it. So Dr. Grady, the next question is for you. It is about Title IX. Does Student Affairs have the capacity to respond to the new regulations for Title IX?
Yeah, I think I'd have to start with just expressing the disappointment in the new guidelines. And I think that you have to start there. This is a setback to this work. And as we think about supporting survivors in this journey, it's disappointing, right? So for us, the safety and well-being of our community is at utmost importance. So I think right now what we're trying to do is to bring offices together, from our CARES office that Yesenia oversees to Michael Salvador in Title IX, to looking at even responded services and Leilani Capo, and really trying to think about how do we move forward, right? The Office of the President will be putting together a committee to really help provide some guidance in terms of helping our campuses think about moving forward by August. So to your larger question about our capacity, I definitely think with our dedicated team that we will be able to move forward in a way that will still center the safety and well-being of our community, and to ensure that our survivors are getting the support that they need, because I think that we have to start there. So I think that, yes, we are equipped with the capacity to move forward. We are awaiting more guidance from the Office of the President as well as the Department of Education, and together or collectively, we will work together to make sure that by August we are ready to go. But again, please note and recognize that that safety piece is something that we are centering in all that we do.
Okay, thank you. Is there any way like staff can help, other staff who are maybe not in these offices? How can they help?
Yeah, I think that once stakeholders get together and try to, start the process of saying, how are we going to meet the needs by August, I think there will be more clarity in terms of how staff, faculty, students can be of support. I think right now we're still trying to fully understand the guidelines from the Department of Education. We're waiting for more guidance from the Office of the President. But as a campus, we are starting those conversations and thinking about how we can move forward in a way that remains true to our mission and to our values.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Please,
Can I just add?
go ahead, Charles, yes.
I would say one of the important ways that that we all as a community can support this. I echo Jonathan's concern and really feel that this was an incredible setback, and I'm incredibly disappointed in the Department of Education for doing this move. And I think my biggest concern is that the new policy and guidelines could create a chilling effect for survivors to even want to come forward and report, because the process now is that's being recommended isn't necessarily survivor focused and survivor centric. And so for me, it's how do we create a community that says we do not tolerate this, this is not acceptable, and this is behavior that is not part of the UC Merced experience. We need to scream that loud and clear and send that message. And secondly, we need to find ways to make sure that we are being supportive of our survivors and encouraging them through this process in a way that doesn't create a chilling effect on their willingness to come forward and share their stories and their experiences. And so the more we can talk about really loudly that we do not tolerate this and that we are supportive of survivors, I think that that will be a really important step forward for us in face of the processes that now are being mandated on us by the Department of Education. So I just want to add that.
Thank you. So I just got a question. Charles, you can answer it. Dr. Grady, you can. Any other senior leadership. What are your thoughts on the new chancellor, and what do you think are the biggest challenges and opportunities he will face early on?
Yeah, well, I feel really excited. I think that, I don't know a lot about him yet and haven't had a chance to personally interact with him. I think his opening statement today at the Regents meeting, he wrote it all himself, completely 100% self-authored, and so got no input from the Office of the President or assistance from the campus in writing that speech. And so for me, the fact that that is not only self-authored, but it spoke really clearly to the values of our institution and who we are as an institution speaks volumes about him. And his commitment to really wanting to be a part of the community, part of the legacy that you all have helped build to this day, but moving us continuing forward and providing and assuring equity and access in an educational experience. And that came loud and clear from his opening statement, and the fact that that was all self-authored, and really excited about that. He also has launched a couple initiatives in his current role that I think are things that we've been talking about at UC Merced. So we're really excited that his background and expertise around that will come forward. One of the programs that he really helped develop recently was a nursing program. And we're looking at a potential partnership with Merced College and our public health program, where we would do a 1-2-1 program where their first year would be at UC Merced, years 2 and 3 would be at Merced College in their nursing program, and then year 4 back at UC Merced, getting their bachelor's degree in public health and nursing and going out and becoming an RN, right? And so that is a program we've started talking about. He's done that. He's got experience in that, right? And so the opportunity to tap into that is huge. We have both our Cal Teach program and our teacher preparation program. Both he and his partner have background in teacher preparation and all that piece. And so I think, again, another opportunity for us as we look to how we are helping to prepare a teacher workforce in the Central Valley and the role that UC Merced, even without a school of education, might be able to play in delivering that front. And finally, he also has helped set up a program around data science. And as we look to the future of some of our math program, our cognitive science program, our computer science program, and data science, and what are we doing with big data, it's one of our research pillars. And so even thinking about how he might be able to help us think about the direction and where that might go because of a program that they started at his current institution. So I think he's got some great experiences that he will be able to bring. I think the difficulty is he's starting in the middle of a pandemic, right? We just hired for the UC system a brand new vice president for research. And she started in March and has never once been able to set foot in the building in Oakland, and has spent her entire job so far in her apartment. And so I don't know how that can happen, right? But it is. And I think that's going to be one of the pieces as we look at both our financial future as the University of California and UC Merced. He's going to step into that. And we'll need all of our help and support as he manages that, as well as then just transitioning into a community when it's difficult, when you can't interact with the community yet. And so I think, again, for us to be creative and supportive in helping them as they transition to Merced and find opportunities to connect with them, even remotely, will become an important element for us. So.
Dr. Grady, do you have a comment?
I echo Dr. Nies' sentiments. I'm excited. I think, again, I'm not familiar with a lot of his work, but just the limited kind of notions that I've seen, just rooted in equity and access. And I think that that is something that I'm really excited about and for. He has a long history in kind of thinking about this work at large campuses. We did the same PhD program, so I'm a bit biased. I'm excited. I know that his urban schooling program is all about equity and access, critical race theory. So I know that, if I know kind of the foundation that he is coming from, and I think that that is exciting and needed for our community as we think about moving forward. And then the challenges, the same challenges that Dr. Nies mentioned, coming into an institution in the midst of a pandemic and trying to help our campus continuously thrive. So that will be a challenge. However, as I started with, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to create a new way of doing and being. And that, again, is very exciting.
Yeah, for me, because I was part of the search committee too, it was, it's great candidates, and I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Munoz to our campus, and not only just to UC Merced, but the community at large. It's very exciting, and he was so personable, so looking forward to interactions with him and highlighting our staff and all we do for this campus. But I also, the challenge would be coming during a pandemic, and there's a lot of anxieties about what's going to happen with people's jobs. What does this mean for our future? Are we going to campus? And am I required to wear a mask? What happens if schools don't open? So there are all these challenges, and you have to kind of jump in to this. But I will say his bow tie game is spot on, excellent. Right? I'm like, wow, because he did wear for his interview too. I was like, nice, I like it. So those are the questions.
Yeah, and it's about, so I've been getting teased all for the past few weeks because I've been leaking out pictures to folks of me doing filming for videos and stuff like that. But I leaked out one to all the folks in student affairs of me in my cap and gown for a commencement video I shot, but I'm wearing shorts and no shoes. And so everybody's been teasing me about being barefoot, and then I've got a really good sock game, but I wasn't wearing my cool socks. And so anyway, so I'm excited to have him with his bow tie game and me with my sock game together.
Yeah, it's really cool. Charles, can you talk about the swimming pool? Because I saw pictures on someone's Facebook, and it's really exciting to see the swimming pool. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, we're super excited. So we filled it up. It got filled up over the weekend, and it's looking beautiful. Really excited about the pool. I was told how much water was put into it, and that we never want to drain it because I don't want to have to pay the bill to fill it up again. So it's an Olympic-sized swim pool. And can meet all of those needs, particularly the NCAA. So we created it in such a way that we could do athletic competitions there with the pool, particularly just up the road at El Cap High School, our pool and other pools in the surrounding area, the opportunity to really support youth programs, particularly in swimming and water polo as part of our hope for the future is that it won't just be for the campus community, but in the summers, the opportunity for us to host some of those youth programs. The more we can bring youth to the campus and expose them to higher education, the benefit for us to kind of address some of our needs to create a college-going culture in the Central Valley. So super excited about the role it'll play in the community. but also excited about the fact that we've got a pool and it's gorgeous. So Jonathan mentioned earlier the referendum. One of the referendums that did not move forward because we didn't have enough votes was actually to help cover the recreation expenses around that. So there will be a minimum fee that will be a membership fee that will be charged to help cover some of the expenses because the student referendum didn't pass. So we're in the process of putting all that together, but we've made an offer and have hired an aquatics program director. So we've got an aquatics coordinator who is on board and ready to be part of the team. So we're super excited.
Yeah, we're almost done with the session. We have 5 minutes left. So again, I want to thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and interact with staff. I know it meant a lot to me, and we look forward to doing more of this and interacting with all of you, hopefully in person soon. But I just want to say a quick comment. I had a quick message that came through. We get cabanas with poolside service.
Right. Right. This is where we need to find the food truck that also does kind of has a margarita machine on the side or something, right? I think we and particularly, you know, as Jonathan said, the Zoom fatigue is kicking in on a lot of us, and so to do a little poolside cabana service to help me overcome my Zoom fatigue, I think is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah. And quickly before we end too, I just want to say, you know, student affairs on this campus has been one of the most diverse with staff. So again, I appreciate all your efforts for that inclusion, diversity, and equity. So it's nice to see that student affairs is so one of the most diverse staff on campus. So appreciate that. And before we leave, again, any parting words, Charles or Dr. Grady?
Jonathan, do you want to? I don't know if I want to follow Jonathan. He's always right.
No parting words. I'll let you give the parting words, Dr. Nies.
You know, I do want to share just one thing, and I'm reminded of it because in the middle of my screen is Amy Lozano-Smith. Amy, giving you a little shout out there. And it's a picture of her with Rufus, our Bobcat mascot. And, you know, and over the 4 years, the student who was our mascot, he and I developed a really close relationship because we were at so many events together all the time, right? And so I sent him an email on Saturday just congratulating him on graduating and for his service over the years. He was also given at the Leadership Awards, he was given the very first ever Steve and Mia Kong Award for leadership and social change because of the work that he's done. And so I reached out to Keith just to congratulate him on graduating. And I want to share this with a little bit with of Keith's reply back with all of you because he talked about how proud he was to have represented the university as our mascot for 4 years. And that everybody commented to him on the legacy he was leaving behind. He said, "It is nothing compared to the mark that you all have had on me and how you have changed my life over these 4 years." So I just want to close by thanking you all for the profound impact that you have had on our students and the way that you have supported them in this journey and made a difference in their lives as they now go out and continue to be these social change agents and do good work in our community. So thank you all so very much. And again, thank you for coming in. As I said at the beginning, this was an emotional need for me, given the roller coaster experience I've had already this week. And I appreciate just seeing your faces and being reminded that you all are out there doing phenomenal work. And I appreciate you very much. So thank you.
Yeah, again, this is the virtual staff appreciation week. So thank you for both of you for being part of this, and our events coordinators put a lot of effort into programming for this week. So please join us for we have a social hour Friday from 3 to 4. So we'll share some exciting news. Please come on. And I think, Charles, you're walking tomorrow morning, right? So
I am. Yeah, join me, 10:30. I'm taking the dog. We're doing a walk.
Yeah. And quickly, we have our staff assembly board elections. We have staff excellence awards, and there is a survey for people first. So please do all of that. Take care of yourselves. Hope to see you all again soon, and we will post this on our website. Give us a little bit of time. There's always technological issues, so we will do this. Again, appreciate everyone. And if I can have the Staff Assembly Board remain on this call, that would be great. Again, thank you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Dr. Grady, and see you all soon. Take care. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everybody.
Yeah, 1 minute to
Thanks.
spare. Yay.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
Yes.
Bye. Happy Staff Appreciation Week.
Bye.
Thank you. Staff Appreciation Week. Yay. I'm gonna stop.
My favorite part.